You think it's just a thought, just imagination, just something private, something no one sees. But Scripture says something very different. In Matthew 5:28, Jesus Christ says, "Anyone who looks at a woman lustfully has already committed adultery with her in his heart." Not outwardly, but inwardly, which means this isn't just about actions, it's about what's happening in your mind when no one is watching. Because every time you entertain a sexual fantasy, something is being trained inside you. The Bible warns in James 1:14-15, each person is tempted when they are dragged away by their own evil desire and enticed. Then, after desire has conceived, it gives birth to sin. Notice the progression. Desire, thought, action, consequence. It doesn't start with destruction. It starts quietly. A thought you allow, a moment you replay, and your brain begins to learn it. Because your mind is not neutral, it is a battlefield. That's why Paul the Apostle writes in Romans 12:2, "Do not be conformed to this world, but be transformed by the renewing of your mind." Why? Because whatever shapes your mind shapes your life. Every time you return to those fantasies, you are feeding a pattern, a loop, a craving, and whether you realize it or not, you are strengthening something the Bible tells you to fight. In Galatians 5:16, "Walk by the Spirit, and you will not gratify the desires of the flesh." But if you keep feeding the flesh, it grows stronger, and the Spirit grows quieter. This is how control is lost, not in one dramatic moment, but in repeated, hidden surrender. You sit down to focus, but that your mind drifts. You try to pray, but your thoughts scatter. You try to build discipline, but something keeps pulling you back. And suddenly, 1 Corinthians 6:12 becomes real. I have the right to do anything, you say, but not everything is beneficial. I will not be mastered by anything. But this begins to master you. Because what you constantly think about, you begin to serve. That's why Proverbs 4:23 warns, above all else, guard your heart, for everything you do flows from it. Not some things, everything. Your focus, your discipline, your desires, your future. And over time, something shifts. Real life starts to feel slower, less exciting, less stimulating. Not because it is, but because your mind has been trained on intensity without effort. And now, reality feels dull, but Scripture already warned about this in 2 Timothy 3:4, lovers of pleasure rather than lovers of God. That's the tension. Pleasure or purpose, escape or growth. And here's where many people get stuck. They try to stop, they say, "I'll quit." But then comes boredom, stress, loneliness, and the mind runs back automatically because the pathway is already built, which is why Paul the Apostle says in 2 Corinthians 10:5, "Take every thought captive and make it obedient." Not some thoughts, every thought. Because if you don't take control of your thoughts, they will take control of you. This is not about shame. It's about awareness. And more importantly, transformation. Because the same Bible that warns you also shows you the way out. In 1 Corinthians 10:13, no temptation has overtaken you except what is common to mankind, and God is faithful. He will also provide a way out so that you can endure it. There is always a way out, but you have to take it. It starts in the moment the thought appears. You don't entertain it. You don't negotiate with it. You interrupt it. You move. You shift your focus because Scripture doesn't say manage temptation. It says in 1 Corinthians 6:18, flee from sexual immorality. Run, not slowly, not later, immediately. Then you replace it because empty space invites return. Fill your mind with what builds you. As Paul the Apostle says in Philippians 4:8, whatever is true, whatever is noble, whatever is right. Think about such things. You retrain your mind, thought by thought, choice by choice, day by day. Because in the end, this is not just about thoughts, it's about who is in control, the flesh or the spirit, distraction or discipline, temporary pleasure or eternal purpose. Music rises, slow fade. So ask yourself, when the thoughts come, when no one is watching, when it's just you and your mind, who is leading? Because the life you build will follow the thoughts you allow.